I want to see what the Steam reviews are like. Because Metacritic's like, yeah, sure, 90. And I'm like, I don't know if this game's a 9 out of 10. All right, I think we're forcing it now. We're forcing it. We're just like, we need something to be the new Skyrim. We need to do something to be the new Final Fantasy. We need something to be the new standard of gaming. You're not going to find that in these modern games. I'm just saying. Even Baldur's Gate, as popular as it was, a lot of people aren't going to try to copy it and be successful because they don't understand what made it popular. Open world games are big right now. They're the big sensation. Everyone just wants to wander around everywhere looking for things. So what you guys don't know, this was apparently developers that were from Ubisoft that split off. They're probably sick of Ubisoft's BS. And it doesn't surprise me. So they decided, we want to make an RPG. We don't want to work on Assassin's Creed Shadows or any Assassin's Creed stuff or Far Cry. We want to do our own thing. So what they decided to do is like, you know what? We like Final Fantasy. Let's make it French. Basically, that's what the game is. Let's turn it French. You know, Expedition 33, it's that named because it's the 33 Expedition. 32 ones failed before. We're going to go together, save the world, blah, blah, blah. Let's start with these reviews. I don't just do every review that's ever possible. I do the ones that are the most recent. Okay, I might do like the top reviews of all time, but I think it's better to get reviews that come out later on to see what's going on. I mean, well, it's past 7 days. When 30 French devs escaped from Ubisoft to build their own game, they proved that the real issue with big studios isn't lack of talent or heart, but horrendous corporate leadership. Well, I wouldn't say it was always like that. It just wasn't. It was smaller back then, but when companies start getting larger and larger, they need more people in. Politics get involved. BS government involvement get involved. If the corporation BS gets involved, it gets ridiculous. You try to pander to an audience that doesn't exist. You try to put things in that no one asked for. Like, well, it was necessary for this, but this game seems to be getting a lot of positive reception. Is there just rewards for this? There is only 11. I figured it wasn't going to be a whole lot for this, and this is the biggest review of this. Because everyone universally hates Ubisoft, but we'll see how this goes. Okay, this company here, Sandfall Interactive, and Kepler, both of these actually, because as a publisher, Bethesda gets dunked on too. Not just being a developer, but a publisher. But let's see how these two companies go from here on out. This is obviously successful for the game. I think, they sold 1 million in 3 days? I don't really have any conniption fits about this review. It's pretty simple. It has nothing to do with the gameplay. It's just like, yeah, you know, a smaller fringe companies can work on things crazy and get things done right without needing corporate overlords constantly stomping on every dream you ever had. Shocker. Moving on. This guy's 2,030 products on account. Are you insane? Are you a bot? It's honestly wild and mind-blowing that Clair Obscur Expedition 33 was made by such a small team. Not really. Since indie games have been blowing up for over a decade now, it's not really that shocking to me. Especially everything's Unreal 5 now. Everyone can just piggyback off that engine. It's not that difficult as people make it out to be. They're not starting from complete and utter scratch. There are a side team that's already been developing games for how long, so it's not really that crazy. You know, they're not some out-of-the-blue indie company like Yacht Games was when they made Shovel Knight. Not impressive for an indie, just impressive, period. Okay, I wouldn't call them indie. You're not going to call a splinter of a big company an indie company. That's a bit insane. Indie means no corporate. They weren't part of a corporation. They're made of a ragtag group of people, but they're no names. They're not necessarily nobodies, but they weren't part of a big company and just formed another group. That's not an indie company. I don't know what you're talking about in terms of indie, but if, like I said, they were already developers, programmers that were already in a company, they just switched companies, and that doesn't really make them indie. Yeah, okay, they're new, but it doesn't make them indie. They already have experience and part of big projects that were already being reproduced. What was Yacht Games part of? I might be incorrect about Yacht Games, but I think we're trying to skew the definition of indie here. Indie independent, aka no backing from big businesses. Right, but the problem is that indie didn't just mean independent. It meant small, completely new company. I mean, some of those were crowdfunded, of course. That's where they needed the help from, was usually from fans and people that were interested in that stuff. But it just meant that they weren't famous or part of something larger. They were obviously up-and-comers, were usually independent. The sheer quality of this game, from the art direction to the combat systems to the way it all just feels cohesive, speaks volumes about what can happen when creative people aren't buried under layers of corporate political nonsense. I'm praising this a little too hard, just because if we're doing this, like, I want to call it Shovel Knight syndrome, where like indie company does things at the bare minimum of something well, and they think it's the greatest thing ever. I'm not saying this game is completely and utterly mediocre. For a person who's had 2,000 products on your thing, you figured you played enough games to see the pattern that have been happening with large companies in making games. Even EA was good at one point. Early mid-2000s, and then the PS3, Xbox 360 era, DLC, microtransactions, everything went to crap because they cared more about making money than making a good product that also made good money. You can have both. Obviously, political BS and other stuff that was happening behind the scenes made things much worse for the average consumer to even be close to being part of. You can't even be a part of PC gaming now. We can't even build a PC now in order to play the games on them. And when you do want to play the games on them, they don't work. I wouldn't even say this game's completely and utterly optimized, excuse me. I do think this game is a lot better than most modern games, I'd argue. And that's the thing. This isn't just a few talented devs making a cool game. It's about what the industry could look like if we stop making creatively run a gauntlet of approval meetings, milestones, and metrics before it can even breathe. You can feel a difference in Expedition 33. I don't know. Talk to BlackRock. Sweet Baby Inc. Those are your problem companies. EA and all them were already a problem, but you're going to try to stop not a monarchy, a monopoly. It's two forms of power. We have government, and now we have corporations. We have the law, and then we have business, which are now basically two forms of government now. This government's not interacting with the corporations, and now the corporations have gotten so big that they influence the government, but you could argue that's always been like that. Even Machiavelli probably talks about influence and power, in which using money to get something. Whoever has the gold makes the rules, the golden rule. But it's not really surprising that people want to get out of the company, and when they have a chance, they can actually make something good. I don't even think this is the first time it's happened. I can't think off the top of my head. My gaming knowledge is a bit skewed because I've been playing Skyrim thinking of Bethesda. Honestly, Clair Obscur is kind of the game that you don't just enjoy, you root for. I don't like this team sports nonsense. It's still a business, still a product, it's still trying to sell you something. Because you're just going to be blinded by bias to the point that you're not going to be able to see anything else. Because it represents something bigger. It's a reminder that games don't need to cost $200 million to have 400 names. We already know this. Shovel Knight? I don't know how much crowdfunded Shovel Knight was, but my point is that we never needed $200 million for a budget. This isn't Grand Theft Auto. A lot of these people are putting so much money into these games and then they go nowhere. Or they don't sell as well as the previous title. Like Assassin's Creed Shadow's a great point. How much money you put in that and not getting the results? I wonder why. Sometimes they just need a team with something to say and the freedom to say it. This was games before the modern era. Hello? You got 2,000 products. Did you forget 20 years ago? This is one of those games that's special. And even the PS3 and Xbox 360 had good games on it. God of War 3. This is one of those games that's special. It's a little rebellious. It's not rebellious. Okay. My God, this game. This is what I imagine Final Fantasy would be if Square Enix had continued using turn-based combat. Combat seems like the natural evolution of what modern turn-based should be, and it's absolute god tier. It's an interesting debate, because I like the freeform combat of Kingdom Hearts. Especially Kingdom Hearts 2, I think, has like one of the better freeform combats. Well, I mean, the drives are kind of... you get a little crazy with the drives, but I like the key combat that has in Kingdom Hearts 2. I like Kingdom Hearts 1 as well, but the camera's jank. The parry and dodge isn't really that crazy of a concept. It just happened to be in a turn-based thing. You're like, wow, that's never been done before, and it probably has been. We just wouldn't know the game. Turn-based is an antiquated system at this point, is it not? Even the Final Fantasy remake decided, you know, turn-based is not really fun anymore. It's funny because Baldur's Gate would prove you wrong, but that's if you want to play D&D. It's hard to say that D&D should be freeform, and I think there's some D&D games that are freeform like that. Maybe the old arcade games, technically. They weren't turn-based. If I had to describe what this game is like, I'd say it's a faithful combination of the following games. Classic Final Fantasy, Persona, Legend of Dragoon, Sea of Stars, Metaphor, Fantasia. Imagine referencing a modern game. Atlas, why would you represent Persona and then just say Atlas games at that point? You could shorten it up a little bit for you. Why would you put Atlas Game 2 over Atlas Game number 1? That's weird. See, you need to make your review longer if you need to describe why these games are like each other. Because when you say Persona, it's like, oh, there's relationships? Because that's one of the big things in Persona. It's the social links. One of the main reasons people play Persona over other JRPGs or RPGs in general. But they don't mention that. I don't think Expedition 33 even has that. But you got to be more specific, just in case. I got it, but not everyone will understand that. If you like any of those, you'll love this. And if you don't like turn-based combat for some reason, try this anyways, because it's the most engaging turn-based combat I've ever seen. When you can parry and dodge, it kind of negates, I don't know, it feels like it negates the whole point of turn-based too. If you could just parry and dodge something, it might as well just be free form. Because the whole point of turn-based is that you get a turn, then your opponent gets a turn. If you then negate the opponent's turn, then there's no point in doing a turn-based combat system, correct? If I can just parry and dodge out of the opponent's turn, what's the point? I'd rather just have free-form combat at that point. That's the point of turn-based. Point! I'm saying point a lot! The visuals are godly. It looks good. The game does look good, but it's, like I said, it's not optimized. VRAM's good, but the frame rate's terrible. Even on top-grade GPUs, but it's a problem with all modern games. The story world building will blow your mind. I don't think so. This one received it for free. Goes to show that the industry is capable if you're under the okay, just a repeat of the top. Yeah, we got it. Exceeded everyone's expectations. The game is AAA standard, excelling every element that makes a game good. Excellent gameplay, soundtrack, acting, story, graphics. No controversy or drama, just a clean, good game with minimal bugs, if any, at launch. No predatory microtransactions, no significant content locked behind a paywall, no battle passes, playable offline, controller and keyboard friendly. This game is only a few features for being a perfect game, still game of the year for me. Dang. Only a few hours in, but I felt compelled to leave a quick review to give this game the thumbs up it so clearly deserves. It's completely blown me away. Notice how different these reviews are compared to Oblivion Remastered. It's completely blown me away. It deserves all the positive attention it can get right now. It's an extraordinary, well-crafted experience, visually stunning, mechanically fresh, and emotionally resonant. You can clearly see the talent behind it. I was genuinely surprised to learn that some of the developers were in fact ex-Ubisoft developers. It's incredible to see what passionate developers can create when they're free from corporate shocker. And for anyone's free from anything and to be able to do what they want, they'd be surprised what they can make. This person has 8,500 products. Oh my goodness. It says products. It doesn't say games, which I really find fascinating. This person has got to be like thousands of games. There's no time to play them all. Dude, what do you think a game of the year so far would be? This game? Sadly enough, there's barely good competition right now. I don't know if you count Oblivion Remastered. I don't know if previous remasters, because I really don't care about Game of the Year. But arguably, it's this game. You know, like I said, no controversy, no really big drama with it. Decent story, decent graphics. It's just good because it's not nearly as incompetent as the other games. I think that's the only reason why. Assassin's Creed Shadows isn't it. It'll probably win awards, but it's definitely not it. Schedule 1 might be Game of the Year. Actually, Schedule 1 has been doing so unfathomably well that it might be Game of the Year just because how fun it is. No predatory microtransactions. Wow. It's like asking, like I said, asking for the bare minimum of in a modern game is now the greatest thing ever for people. Ironically, they've well and truly outdone their former employer in every way, despite only having 1/70th of the manpower available to them. Well, with UE5, anything's possible. My problem is the engine isn't optimized. No, it's like trying to put an unoptimized engine in a car. Like, imagine putting a crappy engine in a car and wonder why the whole car is messing up, because it's an integral part of the car and needs it. That's why the driving experience is so fun. The world design is breathtaking. The soundtrack is phenomenal. Yeah, the soundtrack isn't too bad in this game either. A true work of art and exactly the kind of innovation the industry desperately needs more of. But you're going to have to tell every developer to start making their own thing. But the problem is, I've always had this conniption is that don't become the same thing you were fighting against. You know, fight whatever, Nietzsche, fight monsters, stare into the abyss stares back, keep fighting these monsters, you might become the monsters. We'll see what happens. God, this game is amazing. The soundtrack is beautiful and the combat is top-notch. It cured my turn-based games fatigue. Not to mention the story is compelling and made me wish French people were real. Interactable trash can, just give it Game of the Year. And apparently you can interact with a trash can for a hidden surprise. Okay. This game is about 30 devs who left Ubisoft to create a title that would outdo the latest Assassin's Creed. Shocker. New development team, new dogma for the JRPG genre. This is not a JRPG if it's made in France. New engine, UE5 that doesn't have the usual performance issues of starting. Yes, it does. If tech power-up is supposed to be believed, and I'll probably show it on the screen, that if their frame rate without ray tracing and any of that's frame generation, it's still bad. Even in 1440p, it's abysmal. We're getting monitors that are 480 hertz. It's 480 frames per second, man. There's no excuse in the modern era. None. Ooh, the first negative top comment that people did find helpful and funny. Let's see. I was hyped for this game. I saw a few pictures in one trailer and was told by many people not to look up too much because even seeing the party could lead to spoilers. I was told if you love turn-based RPGs, you will love this. I do love turn-based RPGs, but I do not love this. I have never seen a game have literally everything be perfect yet absolutely fumble the landing. The dodge and parry system can make or break your experience. If you're going to put a dodge and a parry in a turn-based system, it's either going to be completely useless or the greatest thing in the game. It has to by its main function of being in a turn-based game. Because if you can't dodge or parry anything, you might as well not use it at all. But if you could dodge and parry everything, your difficulty goes away, right? Unless the bosses are around the dodge and parry, which I think some of them are. Like, I think one boss could eat your party member for a time being, but sometimes you just do so little damage that it's just ain't worth it. If you are good at games like Sekiro or rhythm games, ignore everything I said. Obviously, if you're good at just pressing a button at the right time, yeah, no shocker. Because a turn-based game, it was just choosing what could be if you didn't already have inside knowledge about what your opponent was going to do. It's trying to figure out what your opponent will do and the best way of going about it. That's the beauty of turn-based anything. Chess is one of the greatest examples of a turn-based game. What will my opponent move after I move or after they move? What am I going to do? Okay, but if you just could dodge and parry everything, you can't even negate that point. We're in an era of not negate, but parry and dodge slop. Everything has to have a parry, everything has to have a dodge, some way or another. You know, even if it's in something as a turn-based game, which really doesn't have those type of things. If you play turn-based games because you appreciate the slow and calculated gameplay or have bad reaction time, this game will be a nightmare. I do not enjoy having a win or loss be entirely dependent on if I can press a button fast enough. This feels like a bunch of people sat in a room and said that turn-based was boring and tried to make it fun. They did, and they took away what is fun about turn-based games for me. I think this game didn't need to be turn-based. They would have to change certain bosses because there's certain moves, like I said, bosses, like one of them eats your player, and you can't just stop that. You can't dodge a parry out of that. In the early stages of this also might be a skill issue on this person's part. Which will probably be what's said in the comments. In the early stages, a few missed dodges or parries will straight up kill you because the game is balanced around you basically being able to never be hit. As you go, you can level to reduce damage, but this doesn't mean you can ignore the mechanic now. Enemies will start inflicting statuses, attack down, defense down, stuns that take away your turns, marks that make you take more damage. Some of their attacks chain up to 5 times, making you weave dodges, parries, and jumps. I could maybe understand if there was a flash or a button prompt to help you dodge. There's none of that, or a setting to make dodging easier without setting the whole game to story mode, but there is. Devs realize people may not be able to do QuickTime events for attacks, so they added an option to do them automatically, but nothing for dodges. If you can't do one, you can't do the other. I sadly can't recommend this to anyone who likes a turn-based game for being turn-based. I don't know, man. Everything having parry and dodge is not fun anymore. Should I play this game? You got $50? If you don't like turn-based, don't buy the game. I don't know if it can run. Hold on. If you might not have a system powerful enough. Dude, this requires a 3060 Ti, though. It's still, like I talked about the Oblivion remaster, which is still pretty high now. If your PC isn't even close to this or under this, you're in trouble. I mean, the average person has a 3060, which is less powerful than a Ti, but the 3060 actually has 12 gigabytes of VRAM instead of 8. Why does it need a 6800 XT for 16 gigabytes of VRAM, but a 3060 Ti for 8 gigabytes of VRAM? How is that even possible? How does that make any sense? It's still 55 gigabytes, which is impressive to make the storage. I'm story over gameplay. Then if you like the story, play it. Watch some trailers, watch some gameplay. I recommend watching gameplay stuff if you're interested in story stuff if you're interested as well.